Perak HaSoiches HaOmnin, DAF IN, sponsored the Refuah Shlema for Aaron ben Rachel. The Gemara begins with three rulings of Rabbah concerning labor litigation. Number one, workers were hired to draw water for irrigation, and it rained. It is the workers' loss because they contracted to work knowing it could rain. If the field was irrigated by a swelling river, it is the employer's loss, since only the employer knew it was his responsibility to notify them. Number two, if a river dried out midday, if it is uncommon, then it is the worker's loss. If it is common, it is the responsibility of the employer to notify them unless they are workers who live in that area. Number three, if the workers were hired for a specific job unaware that they could finish the job before the end of the day, happened to finish their job early, the employer can give them additional work easier or as strenuous as what they were hired for, but not more strenuous. However, if they were hired for a non-specific job, the employer can give them any additional tasks. Rava claims the employer must pay them a full wage, not schar batel, if they are port workers that do not benefit from being idle. The Gemara explains the machlokas of the Chachamim and Rabbi Dosa in a brisa. The Chachamim, number one, they hold even if a worker reneges after completing half the work, he is entitled to compensation for whatever he did, even if it will cost the employer more to finish the job. Number two, if the employer convinced them to finish the job without offering them more money, even after the price for the labor rose, he can claim that he only agreed to include food and drink as part of their payment. Number three, if the employer offered workers initially a wage above the going rate and the going rate rose, they cannot claim additional money for finishing the job because the employer can claim, although they did not accept the going rate when it was less, they agreed to work for what is now the going rate. Rabbi Dosa, number one, he holds a worker who reneges in the middle of a job must compensate for the employer, paying more for a new worker. Number two, the employer reneged on the contract because the price for their work went down. They convinced them to let them finish the job. The employer cannot claim, I agreed on the condition to pay you less, because they can claim we agreed to do better work for our wage. Number three, if the workers initially took less than the going rate and finished the job when their salary was the going rate, the employer cannot pay them less as was the initial contract. They can claim they offered to work for less as an incentive for hire for a price he agreed to pay. Rav decided the halach in favor of Rabbi Dosa. The Mishnah states, Kol hachoizer yado ala tachtoina, whereas Rav holds a day worker can renege in the middle of the day. Therefore, number one, concerning a jobber, he agrees with Rabbi Dosa, but disagrees concerning a day worker. He can renege, the day worker can renege without a penalty. However, if it is a davar avud, delaying the completion of the work would cause a loss to the employer. Even the Chachamim agree, either kind of worker is penalized. Number two, another way of solving the problem. The Mishnah does not refer to a day worker, but either the seller or buyer is reneging on a business transaction, such as a purchase of land. According to this explanation, Rav and Rabbi Dosa would agree totally. Brisa states where the seller reneges on the sale of land and cannot return his money, the buyer collects his money from the seller's best quality land. Number one, it means the best part of the land purchased. In general, Baal Chov, a debtor, repays from Beinunus. In this case, we penalize him and make him pay the idius of the land he purchased. Number two, the seller is considered a mazik because the buyer sold his small properties cheaply in order to buy this large property. Therefore, he pays from his best quality land as a damager if he cannot return him the money. Shimon Gamliel has the seller write a document of sale stating that the buyer acquires with the down payment and the rest is a loan. This prevents either party from reneging. Only Rabbi Yossi holds that the seller or buyer cannot renege by way of the seller doubling or the buyer foregoing the security for the sale without a written document because he holds asmachta is kanya. Rabbi Yehuda, who disagrees with Rabbi Yossi and holds that asmachta is not kona, holds the buyer acquires property equal to the security that he gave. Shimon Gamliel holds this is true only if he said that my security should acquire rather than represent a partial payment. Apparently, according to Shimon Gamliel, the seller does not have to state in writing the rest is a loan as long as he does not say my security should acquire. The difference is if the seller is running after the buyer for the money, it indicates he does not want the buyer to acquire the land without paying all the money. If he's not running after him for the money, he does not have to specify the rest of the money is a loan as long as he does not state that his security should acquire.